This is a very dark thought, but there could be a day where Ye's rock bottom lasts a bit longer than just a couple months. Ye has already been proven to be an erratic person. That, combined with the constant shouting of conspiracy theories and bigoted ideologies, Ye's current behavior could lead him down that unfortunate path one day. Obviously, I hope that never happens. But if Ye keeps going down this very dark, increasingly depressing, downright awful path of self-destruction, it's only a matter of time before the darker parts of him are the only things people will know about him, and he will go down as one of the most hated, most infamous musicians in history. Let's just cut to the chase here. The Vultures 2 rollout and its surrounding stories have all been immensely worrying. As I previously mentioned before in the FML video, Vultures was announced as an album trilogy, with a new installment on the first Friday of each month. And when that video came out, Vultures 1 did release a day late, and Vultures 2 was pushed into allegedly May 3rd, but then May 3rd came and went, with little to no word about what was going on with that album whatsoever. So after months of silence, random Vultures listening parties scheduled for Russia and then Korea, the Yeezy website accidentally revealing the release date anyway, and a sudden cover change, we have Vultures 2. But it is a complete and utter mess. Before we continue, I should clarify, this video is not a fully comprehensive review of Vultures 2, as I want to save my opinions for the trilogy at a later date, depending on if Kanye actually ends up finishing his trilogy. This video is a bit less organized than a proper video essay would be, but still there is definitely a lot of ground to cover here. First and foremost, one of the biggest elephants in the room, the album's a mess. While we were still all wondering when the album would even drop, and most even speculating towards the end of August because the Korea Vultures listening party was set for then, on July 31st, 2024, after literal months of silence, when opening the Yeezy website, visitors were greeted with a message that read, "All orders fulfilled. Vultures 2 coming August 2nd. And within a couple of hours, that date was completely removed from the site just for that all orders fulfilled message to be the only thing there. This obviously started raising a lot of questions for fans because this seems way too legitimate to be some kind of slip up or a hack. Later that week, on August 2nd, the Yeezy website would be changed once again from all orders fulfilled to all orders fulfilled, followed by a message of a potential Vultures 2 track list. A 14-track track list that included 2 songs that, as of recording, have not released at all. What would have been track 11, Fortune and Fame, a song that recently leaked with no Kanye vocals, but with a Tupac sample and some Ty vocals. And the final track, I want to keep monetization here. How do I? Kitty Costs Money, that as of recording has no leaks or snippets available to the public. And just like on the 31st of July, that tracklist message would be taken down once again with still no album in sight, but it all being replaced with the lead single in the album's intro, the song Slide. It would be a Yeezy.com exclusive for a couple hours before finally ending up on DSPs or streaming platforms. And that's what it seemed like for a bit. Kanye pulled another Kanye and lied about actually dropping music again. But then I woke up the following day, Saturday morning, to a TikTok from the official Sunny J announcing that the album was out, but there were certain issues that were plaguing it. So I immediately opened Spotify, and to my surprise, Vultures 2 is there in all of its glory, and it released with a new alternative album cover different to the one that we got back in March. The album would release without Fortune and Fame, Kitty Costs Money, and the song Take Off Your Dress, which I will address in a second. Which I will come back to in a second. They were replaced by the additional songs Maybe, now known as Forever, Bomb, Husband, My Soul, Isabella, an 8-second interlude or skit, and Sky City, a fan favorite Yandhi era track. But this is where the shit show begins. The album on release was filled with mixing issues. Some vocals were quieter than others, some songs were just plain unfinished. The tracklist was disorganized, but then later fixed, and there were some major production changes made to songs that were previously already leaked or had snippets available. Like on the songs River and Lifestyle, for example, fans demanded en masse for the older production back. And there were other many noticeable issues. Another example, the song Husband is a Kanye solo track that perfectly leads into the following song, Lifestyle. But on the August 3rd release of Lifestyle, the song ends with just Husband again, which is an insane oversight to make. Another example of issues on this album is the song 530. Now, 530 was originally a leaked Donda 2 era song. meant for release in that project and was supposedly ready to debut at the Donda 2 listening party back in 2022, but was ultimately shelved at last minute. According to leaks that have come out since then, they have been experimenting with different production choices, and he was potentially going to be on a Kanye solo project, but was fully shelved until now. The song is split into two halves. The first part being amazing, some of Kanye's best work since Donda in my opinion. But the second half clearly unfinished, with it being given to Yeezy team members to help him write reference tracks for. Reference tracks that indeed exist, but Kanye did nothing with them. To this day, the second half of the song is still unfinished. And to add insult to injury, the OG version that released on August 3rd was just a rip of the leaked version from YouTube. So the second part remained unfinished. Its only real update was the addition of Ty Dolla $ign vocals towards the beginning of the beat switch. And that is where the song has been for the past month. You can tell that the album was just rushed out the door when you hear issues like that. Another rushed and unfinished song that comes to mind is also the skit Isabella. This was originally way longer than just 8 minutes. When you hear the guitar instrumental in the background, it almost perfectly leads into a Lil Nas X demo or reference track made during the Donda and Montero recording sessions, fan titled Guess You Get What You Want. A demo with alternate production from Take a Day Trip and Omar Fetty's original version leaked just recently, with Kanye mumbling over it.
Lately, my mind falls in love daily. I don't want you to hate me. Lately, my mind falls in love daily. I don't want you to hate me.
Now, it may come as a surprise that Lil Nas X of all people would be helping Kanye with music, but they have worked together in the past. Kanye offered additional production on Nas's hit Industry Baby with Jack Harlow back in 2021. Nas X even confirmed the song's existence, questioning fans how they had even found it in the first place. It was most likely scrapped from the Montero album and was just given to Kanye's team as a demo. And just off of this demo, most people could tell this would have been fire if it was finished. But instead of opting to either finish it or just not put on the album, he just leaves an 8-second skit there. And now knowing what we missed out on, it just makes it feel even more aggravating. But the most egregious issue on the album that is still present to this day on Vultures 2, is the use of AI Kanye vocals on the songs Field Trip and Sky City. Multiple versions of Field Trip leaked before Vultures 2 came out, and they featured a substantially longer Ty Dolla $ign verse, a longer Don Toliver chorus, a second Cardi verse, and even a Lil Durk feature. But Kanye wasn't on it at all. But on the release, not only was Cardi's second verse cut, Don's verse shortened, Lil Durk's verse removed, most likely because of poor fan reception, but Ty's verse was cut short, with AI punch-ins from Ye. Ye only delivering one real word in one actual line in the song, excluding the intro. And as much as I enjoy Field Trip, hearing those AI vocals really takes you out of it. But the worst of this issue is present on the song Sky City. As I said earlier, Sky City was a fan favorite Yandhi era track, fan named City in the Sky, commonly seen as one of the best unreleased songs Kanye has ever made, period. So when seeing it on the track list, I'm sure almost all Kanye fans were very excited to see that song and see that it was finally released. But then it starts and you hear Kanye's first verse. And the reason why I use air quotes is because it sounds weird. You know why it sounds weird? It's because it's originally just a reference verse that Sci-Hi the Prince wrote for him. Sci-Hi being a frequent member of Kanye's writing team. They just took that verse that he recorded during the Donda sessions, put an AI filter over it just for Kanye to punch in with one line that became irrelevant, just for it to continue. After that verse, Sci-Hi gets a proper verse, but it now feels shoehorned in because he was basically on the song twice already, and that set it over the edge for me. I have my opinions on AI being used in art like this, and I can rant about those at another time, but on top of the clearly unfinished album that was lazily slapped together for an easy buck, it is so aggravating to hear issues like this. Kanye butchered probably one of the best songs he's ever made because he was too lazy to spend 5 fucking minutes to record over a reference track. It is a reference track. It's already done. You just have to speak over it. Oh my God. And even after fan complaints, a lot of these issues still have not been fixed with Vultures 2. And that's another thing. Since the release of Vultures 2, Kanye and his team promised that this stuff would be fixed, promising daily mixing updates to the album. And that's what seemed to happen, but the album only got really 6 main major updates since August 3rd, with the latest Vultures 2 patch, if you want to call it that, coming on the 16th of August, being the latest one, making it over 4 weeks without a proper update. And what's annoying is that Kanye's been doing this kind of thing for years now. It mainly started off with The Life of Pablo, an album that was originally a Tidal exclusive. Its original release has many different production changes, track listing, and just general new songs that were not present on the original Valentine's Day 2016 release on Tidal, like the spoken word poem I Love Kanye. And when Frank Ocean was removed from Wolves, given his own track, aptly titled Frank's Track, both releasing later in March of 2016. And the final track, Saint Pablo, being added to the album 3 months later in June. And according to a Reddit post from user Cole Dota, the album was still getting minor tweaks up to January 2018. In this case, it made a bit more sense for him to keep doing stuff like that, because not only did he himself describe the album as a living, breathing, changing creative expression, but the album's release on streaming platforms was quite messy due to, that big piracy issue and the fact that there were legal troubles surrounding the album's release on streaming platforms. Very small side tangent, is legal trouble is the reason why there are no physical versions of the album. It was originally going to be a Tidal exclusive, then it made its way on the streaming platforms, and people who bought Tidal specifically for the album formed a class action against Kanye and were like, hey, you lied. But that ultimately ended up going nowhere. Since then, he has been releasing albums and then making very minor tweaks to mixing and production, but they haven't been as egregious. Even some of Donda's more obvious issues were fixed within a timely manner, and the album was good enough to where most people just did not give a fuck. But he's become way too comfortable just releasing unfinished music and being like, I'll finish it later. That's what happened with Donda 2, being a STEM player exclusive. You were forced to pay $200 for an admittedly kind of cool piece of technology just to get access to this album. But all the songs on that album that debuted at the listening party were all unfinished, and the album was only updated twice before being completely abandoned. Still entirely unfinished, with songs like 530, for example, being put on Vultures 2, obviously, Keep It Burnin', being removed from the Donda 2 tracklist and then properly finished for a release on Future's album I Never Liked You later that year. The song True Love with XXXTentacion being finished and used for the promotion of X's Look at Me documentary and released as a single. The song Sci-Fi with another member of Kanye's writing team, Sean Leon, turning into the song Oxygen. That would be on Sean's 2023 release in Loving Memory. And the rest of the album either being worked on privately or completely shelved. And this issue comes to a head on Vultures 2. Since The Life of Pablo, this dude's been treating his music like he's a fucking AAA video game developer who's fine with just releasing a buggy mess at launch and then just relying on updates to soothe fans over when they're rightfully upset that the product does not work as advertised. And it's annoying as hell. Who does this nigga think he is? Like Activision Blizzard? You know what? That's actually not a bad comparison, unfortunately. Oh, good lord. Oh my god. It's very unfortunate that fans feel the need to cope with the state of this project, man. According to Genius, the second part of 530 is, all of this mumbo jumbo because Kanye is drunk. He rapped about being drunk in the first part, so now he's inebriated. And that's such a cop-out. It's such a load of horse shit. Finding every reason in the book to defend the choices this guy made with the album. That's why I feel like the video game developer comparison kind of works here. Like, y'all remember Cyberpunk 2077 and how so many people were excited for that game to release just for it to come out in a buggy, unplayable mess that not even people with the greatest of computers could run? Well, I feel like this is a similar situation. The game has improved a lot since then and has been way more positively received after the bug fixes, the Netflix show, and that DLC with Idris Elba, but its horrible launch stopped it from being as good and as loved as it could have been. Like here, as much as I think Vultures 2 is an improvement upon its predecessor, a very, very slight improvement, mind you, any kind of praise I want to give this album is immediately thwarted by the fact that he released it in this just unforgivable, unplayable mess. And it, to this day, still has issues that seem like they won't get fixed anytime soon. One song that I didn't mention that was removed from the Vultures 2 tracklist was the aforementioned Take Off Your Dress. Now, this fan favorite song would be released exclusively on Yeezy.com, being dubbed a deluxe edition track. And this is another unfortunate part of the album's Rollout. The album was projected to make it to number 2 on Billboard, so in a very desperate attempt to boost sales, Kanye rolled out 5 different deluxe editions of the album, featuring 4 fan-favorite Vultures era tracks that were rumored to be on the album but didn't, like Take Off Your Dress, Believer, Drunk with Kodak Black and Peso Pluma, a song that also apparently had Bad Bunny on it, but I think his label didn't clear his verse, and I think there are obvious reasons why. The song Gun to My Head with Kid Cudi, and the song Can You Be, formerly known as Pressure, a Swish/Life of Pablo era song that had been heavily sought after by Kanye fans for years. It was first heard by a fan recording behind the 2015 Glastonbury Festival where Kanye headlined, and then a short video inside of the studio of that song leaked, and it got many different leaks and variations over the years. But in May of 2024, we would finally get what fans deemed the definitive version of this song. About 80% finished and featuring Travis Scott, which if you watch the FML video you would remember was a very active member of Kanye's production team before he went solo. And the version that leaked was apparently meant for Lil Uzi to record a verse over. Of all people, pretty interesting. And the thing is, as cool as it is to have these songs finally be out, especially with them apparently coming to streaming soon, hopefully, after the high of having Can You Be wore off, you quickly come to realize that this was done in desperation, to quickly try and claim back the number 1 spot and maintain Kanye's streak of number 1 albums he's had since graduation. I mean, hell, the first official version of Can You Be was just a rip of the leak, once again, posted by the YouTube channel Ye Unreleased. And you know the reason why people could tell it was a rip? Because literally in Ye Unreleased video description, they explain that from 230 to 251, the mixing is altered to avoid the YouTube copyright bots, leaving a download link to the proper file. So whoever... Oh my god. So whoever worked on that album, to avoid the embarrassment that came from just ripping a leak online, you just had to download the file. The very least. That's all you had to do. Oh my god. The song would then get a proper Vultures reworking with Ty recording over some of Kanye's mumble bits, and Kanye recording over another line that is now irrelevant, but using that same shitty Xbox 360 mic he used to record Gorgeous on. And it worked for that song. It doesn't work here. It's no longer really cool that this almost 10-year sought-after song has finally been released to the public, when you see the reason why it actually came to be, and you see how little effort was put into its actual release. And all of these efforts were in vain, as Kanye lost the number 1 spot to Taylor Swift with her, 58 million copies of The Tortured Poets Department still going strong. Unrelated, Kanye and Charlie XCX, they gotta get back at her somehow, because she did them so incredibly dirty. And my final issue with the release of Vultures 2, which may be a bit of a nitpick, but still, has been Ye's very poor business and creative decisions. On both Vultures 1 and 2, Kanye has been using a plethora of uncleared samples, and I complained about the V1 samples in the FML video, but for Vultures 2, the song Field Trip samples the song Machine Gun by Portishead on Kodak's part, which wasn't cleared by them and they aren't the happiest about. The song Gun to My Head interpolates or samples the song Blindside by Alice Merton, and she also stated that she didn't and never will clear the usage of the sample in Kanye's song because of her reasonable hesitance to associate with Kanye. And the song 530 samples the acoustic version of the song Break the Fall by the artist Swish. Hope I'm saying that right, I'm sorry. And they announced on TikTok that they had not been contacted at all about the sample clearance and just woke up to its release like the rest of us did. Now for Portishead and Alice Merton, there's been no word of any kind of legal action so far as I'm concerned. They're just a bit miffed about it, but Swish is put in a very uncomfortable and unfortunate position here because they're an indie artist. Even if Swish wanted to get credit and get the compensation that they deserve, they're fighting an uphill battle, trying to negotiate with the Yeezy team as a small artist. And that's my issue with the way that Kanye's been handling things, or lack thereof. He has had issues stemming from sample clearance forever, since about the Yeezus era, I believe, but he hasn't learned his lesson. As much as I do enjoy the songs Gun to My Head, Field Trip, and the first part of 530, it is disrespectful to these artists to not try and work these things out. They deserve to be credited or compensated for their work. People seem to forget that a sample is an extension of pre-existing art, and its creators deserve to be compensated for their contributions to said art, especially if they are a smaller artist like Swish, where getting proper credit or even like a feature credit, but it could not only boost people's interest in their music, but could get them a nice bag as well, at the very least. Most of the comments in Swish's comment section are people just saying, "We love the song, please don't take it down, but get your bag at the very least." If Ye can get Miles to do a bomb remix, he can at the very least ask them for permission, or at least try to negotiate royalties or something, man. Why is Miles on a Kanye West song? Why are they working together? This is like if Kendrick Lamar asked Joji to dust off the pink suit to record a verse for his upcoming project. Like, what is happening right now? Kanye cannot continue to keep playing fast and loose when it comes to issues like this, because it can lead to just more trouble for him. These beloved songs can face the fate of Good Don't Die and just be removed entirely from the album. This is a problem. And don't even get me started on this dude's legal issues with Atlantic Records. Now, in an Instagram story from like 3 or so weeks ago, alongside a very vague statement that borders on some of the behavior Ye got in trouble for 2 years ago, Atlantic Records is upset with Ye for not giving them 40% of all Vultures profits, as Ty Dolla $ign is an Atlantic Records signed artist, and they own the rights to any music made under that name. Now, I should clarify, I'm not some corporate shill that's just like super upset and saddened for the multi-billion-dollar company that's not getting their artificial and unfair pay cut. I don't give a fuck. The niggas at Universal, they'll be fine. But issues like this cannot arise. I assume, hopefully, that Ye split Vulture's profits with Ty directly, as the projects have been released independently through Yeezy. But playing with these labels can only lead to bad things, as they are threatening to take down both Vulture's projects if they don't get that 40%. So yeah, to make a long story short, with a lack of promotion, a messy and clearly unfinished album that fans are so disappointed in, they are apologizing to Anthony Fantano for bashing the Vultures 1 review, it is safe to say that Vultures 2 has been a complete and utter fucking mess. And that's it. Show's over. Bye.
Lately, my mind falls in love daily.
Is what I would say if that's where the controversy for this album actually ended. And before we continue, this is fully unrelated. I want to show off my 1,000 subscriber play button. This is definitely real and manufactured by YouTube, and not a plate I made at this pottery place for my homegirl Sandra's birthday that I fully butchered, and it looks... This is terrible. This is so terrible. I'm gonna find a place for this one day, I promise. Shout out Sandra, by the way. But in fact, a very dark and unfortunate secret has seemed to come to light here that could explain some of Ye's recent actions and brings forth a major concern for Kanye's well-being. And I'm of course talking about his alleged nitrous addiction. On August 5th, Yeezy's ex-head chief of staff, Milo Yiannopoulos, made a very lengthy statement as to why he departed from Yeezy and the major issues that led to his firing. Now, when I first heard that Milo had this big statement to share, I kind of ignored it, because Milo's claim to fame is that he's just a right-wing, grifting rage baiter. Ye working with that man is already a severe lapse in judgment, but I digress. I just assumed that the dude was bitter from being fired from Yeezy, which I still think he is, but I didn't feel like giving my attention to a dude who felt like his homosexuality needed to be cured. And that was until almost every freaking news outlet picked up this story and showed me what it was. Milo shared on Twitter a very lengthy affidavit against Kanye's celebrity dentist, Thomas Connolly. And right now, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm showing you this dude who looks like a fucking villain from a canceled crime show on the CW. But this is a real person, a real licensed dentist who lets this man near their mouth. Holy Jesus. According to allegations levied by Milo in his affidavit, he is someone not to be trusted. And before I continue, I should clarify, at this time, these are all allegations. So, Connolly, put your scary lawyers away. I'm discussing allegations here. But what's been going on is that Milo alleges that since February of 2023, Ye has been giving Connolly about $50K a month to supply him with large quantities of nitrous oxide that Ye uses recreationally. This conduct breaking California's laws surrounding the administration of nitrous oxide. Connolly even moving himself into Ye's apartment building so that he can be closer to Ye and exploit him for more money. There are other many troubling allegations made against the guy, like how he scammed customers for example, using moissanite diamonds instead of real ones for a client. He also allegedly has ties to a Mexican drug cartel to which he owes them $2 million. And he allegedly filed bankruptcy illegally to evade taxes. Man, I should start doing that. Hey there, U.S. government. That was a joke. Please don't hurt me. I want to graduate college. Milo shared text between Connolly, Ye, and himself, proving that these conversations did in fact happen, and that Connolly was indeed supplying Ye with nitrous and coercing him into giving him more money. A text thread where Milo has Kanye's profile picture as Golden Freddy from Five Nights at Freddy's, most likely calling the dude a tweaker, which, hey, Milo, if you actually want to help Kanye like you say you do, maybe don't publicize that, because you have now given birth to the newest Kanye meme format. So, all in all, if this is true, Thomas Connolly is a horrible person. Taking away any kind of fan bias even. Giving someone who is already suffering from a severe mental illness a substance that can cause severe nerve damage to someone's brain, induce psychosis, and also, kill them is just diabolical. There's no other way to describe it. The nitrous abuse has obviously been the main focus of discussions surrounding Ye, and rightfully so. It is immensely worrying to hear this kind of news, especially at a time where nitrous oxide abuse is becoming popular for some reason. Many fans are concerned for the sake of mental well-being, and not to sound parasocial here, but fair enough. The dude just looks not happy at all. He wears the same fit all the time. He looks generally unkempt. This is some serious shit. And this continues to show us how much Kanye's life is just falling apart behind the scenes, especially with the questionable state of Yeezy. I already made light of the sexual harassment lawsuit levied against Ye in the beginning of the video, which isn't good, and I didn't just gloss over it intentionally. But on top of that, Yeezy in general is just falling apart. According to both Milo's affidavit and a statement from a former Yeezy team member, Steven Smith, the Yeezy company is in a mess. Steven has worked with Ye since 2016, when Yeezy was starting to become more mainstream, being a part of his sneaker design team. He was fired shortly after Vultures 2 released. Now, I need to make a important distinction here real quick. The Yeezy that I have been referring to this entire video has been Yeezy spelled YZY. Adidas owns the copyrights to Yeezy spelled Yeezy. Since the you-know-what incident, Ye has been running Yeezy on his own, and both Milo and Steven make the claims that Kanye runs his business very recklessly. Milo says that Ye makes continuously bad and impulsive financial decisions, improperly pays his employees, and ignores his financial advisors at every turn. And this wasn't mentioned by Milo, but an example of this recklessness that we can see is one of his Malibu properties, for example. After buying it in 2021 for almost $58 million, the home was gutted and abandoned for nearly 2 years, only being sold for $21 million earlier in August. Now, $21 million is nothing to sneeze at, let's be real. But still, Ye sold it for over 2 times less than what he bought it for. Not to mention the poor business decisions mentioned earlier in the video, like the illegal and somewhat immoral use of samples in the Atlantic Records debate. And this all really starts to contextualize so much. Since Ye has been independent, he continues to run his company into the ground, all while allegedly hooked on an addictive substance. And this unfortunately brings me back to the top of the video here. The mess that has been the Vultures 2 era has unfortunately proven the exact point I made 5 months ago. There's a reason why I've been so self-referential to the FML video, and it's because in that video, I got a lot off my chest about how I've been feeling about Kanye's music and his actions as a person recently. And as time goes on, it seems like almost every point in that video that I made unfortunately gets proven right at every turn. To summarize what I said in that video, I analyzed the song FML from The Life of Pablo. I believe that it is one of Kanye's most beautiful, eye-opening, and dark songs he's ever released. In that song, he admits to being a failure as a father, as a husband, and as a person to a degree, and wants to abandon all the unhealthy habits that bring him down, so that he can continue making the art that he is passionate about, so that he can be a better husband to his at-the-time wife, and be a better father to his kids. Especially since Baby Number 2 came out around the same time as The Life of Pablo. The thesis of that video was that since the T-Lop era, this kind of self-reflection seems to be absent from Kanye's actual life, as he has continuously jeopardized his morals for money, supposed creative freedom, and to fulfill his own desires. And I feel like that is especially relevant coming off of the you-know-what incident. Despite Vultures 1 being successful commercially, it is one of Ye's biggest musical disappointments, only rivaled by its predecessor. Despite claiming to care so much about his art and his creativity, he has been working with teams of talented musicians that basically damn near do all the work for him, and he still ends up coming short. With the release of unreleased songs, the usage of AI vocals, and lazy, passionless, desperate attempts to boost sales, like slapping together a fan favorite song for a quick buck. Things like this show how much this man has truly just gone off the deep end, in my opinion. Not even Ty could carry him like he did on Vultures 1 to make Vultures 2 worthwhile. And even with these very negative issues that are affecting his music, according to Stephen Smith, Ye has, quote, lost his mind, and the whole Yeezy team is circling the drain, and this is just a part of it. He has surrounded himself with toxic, C-grade losers. As I also mentioned in the FML video, Kanye continuously surrounds himself with yes men who will not only encourage his actions, but take no shame in watching this man destroy himself. I feel like people have gotten sidetracked from this conversation because of the Korea show. And the thing is, yeah, the show was great, even though the dude seemed to forget half of the words to his own songs. It was still awesome to see him actually pick up the mic since the Donda 2 show and go through a 54 set track list of some of his biggest classics. But, and I hate to be a bit of a downer here, you shouldn't be blinded by this one cool moment. Things are continuously looking grim for the future of Kanye's business, his music, and most importantly, his life. As far as we know, the man is a ticking time bomb. I said this in May, and I will say it again. If he does not abandon all this self-destructive behavior, distance himself from these clear glazing maniacs, and get the mental assistance that he clearly needs, it is only a matter of time before things get really fucking grim for this guy. I've been severely disappointed with Ye since Donda 2. Forcing people to pay $200 for an unfinished album that you clearly did not give a fuck about, to then come back months later and just start spewing this incredibly hateful rhetoric to your ride or die fan base, where you know how much influence you hold and you know that people internalize those things and just begin a wave of hatred towards Jewish people and other marginalized groups in the future, with all of your coonery fully on display, and then to come back from all of that with two incredibly lackluster albums, while you fail to compensate the members of your business, your music collaborators, and etc., it's beyond a disappointment. It is an utter disgrace to the musical and personal legacy that you will leave behind. But at the same time, I feel bad for the guy, because all of this is happening while he's surrounded by people who clearly don't give a fuck about him, and while he's struggling with substance abuse, surrounded by people who wouldn't give a shit if he killed over the next day, as long as they got their money. I hate to repeat myself so much here, so if you want a better understanding of my issues with Ye and issues that the fan base has had since the incident, I would recommend you watch the FML video. It's probably one of the better videos. It's my favorite video I've ever made personally. And given the heavy subject matter, I will leave links to any kind of like substance abuse help, things like that in the description if you are suffering from things like that. But to end on an unfortunately somber note, Ye needs help, point blank period, and the dude needs to get it before it gets too late.
Do you feel that I'm feeling, do you feel that I'm being free and I'm thinking free?
I actually don't think you're thinking anything. I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that
is because Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said. And while you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Frankly, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled, and brother, I am unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something, to me, that's not real.